Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be looking at what may well be the very finest free games on the Nintendo Switch, according to the expert opinion of me. Naturally, I still think that most of the most memorable experiences you're going to get with a game are going to come from the old-fashioned, handing over currency and receiving a product in return. But sometimes there are things in life that need your money more. Now, the term free game is kind of a muddy sort of explanation, so we've got some ground rules which I did just record and explain, but that took too long, so text! And here's a few examples of things we looked at but haven't included because of various reasons. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling, let's dive right into things. Alright, let's get this one out of the way because I'm well aware that for many people, this game is a bit of a contentious issue. There are an awful lot of people who can't stand Fortnite for one reason or another, and that is perfectly valid, but what is also perfectly valid is the fact that this is actually a very fun and enjoyable game. It's by no means perfect, I mean, what game is at the end of the day? But this game is as popular as it is for a reason. It is a very addictive kind of one more round kind of game, and it suckers you in a way that a lot of other multiplayer games can't really. It's true, you'll be spending a lot of your time not doing an awful lot of shooting if you actually plan on living. Seriously, the best tactic I found is to just try and avoid any and all firefights that really aren't necessary. But especially if you can jump into this with a load of friends, it can be really, really good fun. It can also be really not a lot of fun. It seems to be very dependent on a game-by-game basis. It's had a bit of a turbulent history on the Switch so far. When it was first released, it was pretty good, and then performance took a real nosedive, and thankfully things are a lot better now. Still not perfect, but definitely playable. It carries a lot of stigma, and a lot of complaints that people have about the game are perfectly valid, but if you can put those to one side for a moment, you might find that you actually really have quite a good time. Oh god, Warframe, how the hell did they get this on Switch? This is another game that was ported by Panic Button, who were responsible for the likes of Doom 2016 and Wolfenstein 2 and all that stuff, and I still can't really believe that this is running on the Switch, let alone running as well as it does. You play as what basically amounts to a space ninja, and you've got to run around and whack and shoot and fire a bow and throw kunai and stuff to try and achieve an objective, and the objectives are relatively simple. Most of the missions are fairly brief, but you do kind of want to start killing people along the way and, trying to avoid alarm systems and everything, and the movement is just buttery smooth. It's so satisfying to be able to fly around, and maybe better than I am because I haven't played this game for a while. Microtransactions are also really unobtrusive. I occasionally forget that it's not a game I've paid for. I mean, yeah, it does have that kind of feel of a free game, if you know what I mean, sort of the small missions and, multiplayer and all that sort of thing, but at the same time, this is a really substantial game that holds up surprisingly well, even if you don't drop a single penny into it. And I don't drop a single penny into any of these games. Definitely worth a look in. It's not going to be for everyone, but my god, if you're looking at this and you think that looks like a tasty sausage, then you are most likely going to have an absolute blast with this one. I'm gonna be brutally honest, before I started doing this video, I hadn't even given Asphalt 9 Legends the time of day. I'd seen it on the eShop, but I just thought, I'm not, I kind of like racing games in bits and bobs, but certainly simulation games, I have to really get into them, and I just haven't been able to for a number of years, and it turns out that this really isn't a simulation game. This is just a mad driving game. I mean, it's got really quite realistic looks on the face of it, but you're going to be driving around taking out other cars. It's quite similar to Burnout in some regards, and you're going to be going over ramps and doing things, but it really doesn't care about realistic physics. It's just throwing you around left, right, and center. You're drifting around, doing boosts. It's just, yeah, I've got to say, it's really good fun. What's more, the visuals are pretty damn tasty as well. I don't know how well it's going to come across in the video with YouTube's classic old compression nonsense. And it performs fairly well as well. It largely tries to aim for a 60 frames a second and doesn't manage to always get there. There are fairly frequent dips, but they don't really seem to impact gameplay that much. It is a little bit more aggressive with the microtransactions, which is disappointing, but at the same time, you can kind of play through as much as you like, and it's really suited to the Switch's kind of pick up and put down kind of play. Having a timer to refuel your car is annoying, but I can live with it. I didn't pay anything for it. You may well look at Realm Royale and think, hey, this looks an awful lot like Fortnite. Like, an awful lot like Fortnite. And you know what? You're right. It is an awful lot like Fortnite. It is a battle royale game where you run around, collect weapons, drop from the sky. You know, yeah, it's clearly inspired by Fortnite. But you know what? I actually prefer it quite a bit over Fortnite. I don't know whether it's just because Fortnite is so heavily focused on getting resources and building structures, and you get these people that, you know, sort of you fire one shot at them and they immediately build an entire tower around themselves. But Realm Royale is a little bit more about just the shooting gameplay and stuff like that. There's some more sort of crazy stuff going on, and you can actually destroy weapons and things like that to get little, what are the little crystally things? I can't remember what they're called now. I played this today. And you can then spend those at a forge to get a new weapon, and it's not guaranteed what you're gonna get, but it's likely to be something pretty damn tasty depending on your class. Because yeah, this has classes as well, which is kind of fun. What's more, when you lose all your health, you don't just get downed like you do in Fortnite. Instead, you run around as a chicken, which is kind of silly, but you know what? I think it just provides you a little bit of a better chance of coming back, and it's even more satisfying to take down a chicken than it is just to take down somebody who's crawling around the place. Performance is pretty alright as well. There are some instances of stuttering, which is kind of annoying, but that may be due to just, you know, internet latency or something like that. I really don't know. All I do know is longbows, baby. Longbows. Hey, Alex, isn't that Monster Hunter? No, it's Dauntless. It's nothing like Monster Hunter. It's a lot like Monster Hunter. Dauntless is a game where you go off and try and take out a big monster with up to 3 other players using a variety of different weapons. Yeah, this is clearly inspired by Monster Hunter and Monster Hunter's general style of gameplay. But you know what? It's still damned good fun. It is by no means as deep as Monster Hunter, which is, well, you can take that as either a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest, because on the one hand, Monster Hunter is wonderful because it is so deep and so engrossing, and, you know, every single little thing counts, and it's all about your knowledge of the monster rather than your weapons per se. And yet at the same time, it makes it incredibly hard to get into. So Dauntless is a brilliant stepping stone. The visuals on the monsters are pretty nice overall. You know, they're fairly crisp and clean, and the environments are consistent. The visuals for the character players, though, are a little bit... This is the closest bit I could get to my own. I really like this game. It doesn't hold my attention as long as some of the other games on this list, but every time I dive in, I have a good time, and I'd really like to be able to play it with some friends, but that would mean playing it out of office hours and actually having friends, and I haven't got time for that. It's got good, solid gameplay, largely unintrusive microtransactions. Performance is overall pretty good, pretty atrocious when you're in the town though. I think that's just due to the number of bodies around. But when you're out there hunting a monster, it's a damn good time. This game wasn't originally going to feature on this list because I didn't get a match during the beta, and then this video got delayed so many times that the game actually came out. I've got to be brutally honest with you, I had kind of written off Ninjala after seeing people's initial impressions of it, and not being able to get a game myself. I just wasn't impressed. But now that it's out and I've actually played the bloomin' thing, I can't deny This game's actually pretty good. At first glance, I did think it was a very sort of straightforward game with not a lot of depth, and I was very, very wrong about that. The movement initially felt quite slow, but then I realized that there's loads of things you can do to speed yourself up, and it costs you, but you know, you can do it. The weapon variety is pretty good as well, and yeah, I've been really enjoying playing it, to the point that I maybe played it a little bit too much and delayed this video even further. It definitely takes a little bit of getting used to, and there is going to be a bit of a learning curve to say the least, but at the same time, I found myself being able to learn it fairly quickly overall. Visually, it looks fantastic. I mean, the art style isn't quite my cup of tea, but I can appreciate that that is just a purely personal thing, and from a more objective point of view, it is actually very, very good. I just don't like the overtly childishness of it. And performance is generally pretty good as well. I did have a few instances where I lost about a second where it just sort of froze and then continued after, which was very annoying, but it was also fairly rare and they're talking about improving things, so I can't argue too much. Where I can argue though is the microtransactions. They are pretty front and center. They are all purely visual, it's true, but I would have liked just a little bit of variety in the type of clothing you can wear from the off, but instead you've just got two options, and one of them is just a smaller version of the other one, or the other way round. Having said that, it is purely cosmetic, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. The game is still great fun, and I can see myself actually going back to this, which, you know, a day or two ago, I would not have said was a possibility, so shows what I know, eh? Good grief, Alex, don't you know that the proper Overwatch is available on Switch now? I am aware, the only thing is this one's free, and I actually prefer this one. Paladins is a funny old game. Much like Realm Royale, it has taken a formula that has clearly worked for another company and reworked certain areas to try and make it unique, but at the same time fulfilling that same kind of niche. And I've got to say, I really, really like Paladins a lot. The variety of characters that you can play as, even though I realistically only play as two of them, is really quite impressive. Like, there are a lot of characters here, and chances are I'm never going to play as most of them, but the ones that I do play as feel genuinely unique and kind of bonkers. In a good way. There's so much variety in here, I can't really speak for how balanced the gameplay is overall, but considering you have 5 different players on each team, I think it's 5. Yeah, it's 5, yeah. Things generally seem to work out largely fairly well. Again, I'm by no means an expert player, but what I do play casually, I enjoy the hell out of it. Visually, it can be a bit slow to load certain models in when in menus and things like that, but when you're actually in the game, I've got to say, it looks fantastic and it runs even better. This is a full 60 frames a second. I can't tell you how often it drops frames or anything, but I never really notice any kind of drop. Overall, this is just damn good fun, and I think it's the game on this list that I probably play the most, even though the following game is what it is. Tetris 99 is undeniably, for me, the king of free games on the Switch. My god, this game is good. You play Tetris online against 98 other people. That's it. Well, that's not quite it. You can target and attack certain other people and send junk blocks their way. What are they called? Trash blocks? Junk blocks? You Americans and your crazy terms. I'm going to call them rubbish blocks. But naturally, other people can target you and rubbish blocks can be sent your way, and so it's a constant kind of battle. It is a battle royale Tetris game. It should not work. It should not be as good as it is, but it really is. And what's more, well, obviously it's Tetris. It runs perfectly. There are no hitches whatsoever. Visually, it's very good, it's Tetris, and the microtransactions are basically non-existent. I mean, they are there, but you'd almost never know. This may be because you don't have an avatar, so there's nothing really cosmetically to change per se beyond the backgrounds, of which I have none. You do have an icon, which has to be this cat by law, but even then, that's a very minor thing. Nobody's going to be looking through or sort of taking note because you've got a really cool icon, are they? It's just Tetris. Multiplayer, online Tetris, with 98 other people, and it's just fantastic. And there you have it. Those are, in our opinion, the finest free games available on the Nintendo Switch. Is your favorite excluded? Let us know, or otherwise, down there in the comments. please comment, it's good. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you exchange that subscribe button for some currency of some sort, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. No fighting, you two.